Hey, friends! I'm Jesse Fisco.
And I'm Ambry Fisco.
As founders of several successful businesses, we've experienced absolute joy and satisfaction working together to build our empire.
Our journey started off as a small business idea and has launched into a multi-million-dollar portfolio. It would have never been possible had Jesse and I not understood the key principles of making it all work together. But it has not been easy.
We found ourselves in the trenches trying to balance real life with business life while maintaining our strong commitment to creating an amazing marriage.
And we've emerged in a beautiful way together. This podcast was created to help you do what we've done, build an amazing marriage together while maintaining balance between life and business.
So here we are. You're listening to the Matrimonial Merger, a couple's guide to balancing life and business.
Let's get started.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Matrimonial Merger. Great to have you back today. Jesse, what are we talking about today?
Oh man, this episode is going to be crazy, Ambry, because we're going to talk about value on this episode. And more importantly, when you start to feel like there's a lack of value in what you offer, whether that's in relationship or business or anything in your life, that is a red flag. And we're going to talk about why. And so I'm super excited about this episode.
It'll be a good one.
I mean, I can just, my blood was boiling. We've
been sitting here chatting for like 30 minutes already, and we're both just like fired up. Like,
I know.
let's address
And the
this.
hard part is, it's not hard, but the new part that we're trying to change is we're trying to condense these episodes a little bit down to 25 minutes. And we told ourselves last episode, 25 minutes or bust.
We just
right?
effortlessly talk for 45 minutes, so it seems like,
There's
weird
something
to
in
talk
that
for only
25 to 40 minute mark in between there that like, it just goes deeper.
It does.
It's
I don't
just so
know.
much fun.
So we might even consider some 2-part episodes coming up. But I think maybe you guys will agree. Like, there's something about just like a solid, awesome 25 minutes where you just walk away feeling fantastic
Absolutely.
and on fire. So
Absolutely.
if we can provide that value to you, wouldn't that be great?
Wouldn't that be amazing? And I want to kind of give a backstory about this topic real quick. Ambry and I, from time to time, we go back and say, how can we help other people? Mm-hmm. And so we ended up just picking a name and sending
a text to someone that we work with,
that
we've hired,
really, really appreciate, and actually have come to like love this person. And anyways, what we did is just, hey, what can we help you out with? What can we talk about on this podcast? We don't even know if he listens, but now he's just going to listen.
Maybe
right?
now he has to listen to this one.
Ya, right?
You know who you are out there.
Yeah.
I hope you hear this.
And so, anyways, and that was one of the things. And it was more of a business relation question about like, how do I provide more value to my clients? Which is awesome. Ambry and I love business.
How do you sell on value? How do you like,
And Ambry and I love talking business, but this podcast is about business, life, and relationships.
This applies to all of them.
And so we are going to literally just take out the glass, take out the hammer, and just beat the crap out of it because it's going to be so much fun.
Wow.
Yes. And so, the real problem I see with value, whether it's your clients, with your spouse, or your product, whatever the case, you feel like you can't sell it, or in some cases you speak way too much, right? We've all been on that sales call, and or we've been where you're having this, maybe a disagreement, right? Yeah. And the person or whoever continues to just talk and talk and talk and just lay it all out. Yeah. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I get your point. I mean, I've had my wallet like on the table, right? And I imagine how you feel like from the one end receiving all that, you're like, oh my gosh, well, can we just get over with it? Like, I get your point. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I freaking need a Monster Energy drink to get through this presentation or to get through this conversation. And then on the other side, as the person providing value, you're like, oh, but this, and I need you to know this, and I need you to experience this, and you just continue to talk and talk and talk, and you're probably like, oh, why is this person just continuing to like shake their head? Oh my gosh, did they just look away from me? Did they just roll their eyes? And there's like all these emotions and feelings, and therefore you feel like you have to dig deeper, right? And continue to provide more value. And ultimately, this is, I don't know if this is very healthy for either party. Right. Right? And so, I don't know, Ambry, do you have any feedback on that one?
No, I totally agree with you there. And I think that, it's interesting. Like we sometimes sell or provide value based on like our model of what value is and means, right?
Yeah.
Which likely could be very different than, that other person. And that can be a huge problem. Right? Like,
absolutely.
if I'm trying to sell you on the idea of going to, I don't know, someplace for dinner, for an activity or whatever, and I'm selling you only on like my model of what the value is, you'll probably still do it just because, like, in this case, you're my husband, you want me to be happy. Like, you'll be like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
But what if I could sell you on this idea based on your model of the world and what you, the way you like to be sold to? All of a sudden, instead of like, you're just coming with me, it turns into like an experience that we both want and that we're both invested in.
And I think
that's a million times better.
100%. And like we talked about this today because you shared a story about your friend. Like there's like this big yoga thing that's happening on Valentine's Day, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. So there might be this yoga thing. And whatever the case, some of the women that you associate with are like, oh, my husband would never do it. And you and I are talking and you're like, would you do it? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And you're like, well, why? Like the Jesse I know a year ago wouldn't have never done it. And I'm like,
yeah,
well,
that's what I told them. I was like, a year and a half ago, I would have said the same thing about Jesse. Like he would never go to a yoga class or whatever.
Right. But it was so funny because I just looked at you and I said, you said the word date, Ambry. You said a yoga date.
Yeah.
And for me, the word
you and
date.
Me, kids are with a sitter. We're doing something fun. Like
that value right
all
there.
All of a sudden you're like, I don't care what it is. Let's go.
I don't have to pick up Cheerios. I don't have to deal with crying over the stupid, glider cars they go around in the kitchen. Like I don't have to deal with any of that. You said date.
You get a break.
Girl, you could do whatever you want. I'm ready to go, right?
Yeah.
Like it could be like Pottery Barn experience, right? Like I could sit there and just watch you change clothes for an hour and you call that date.
Yeah, you would enjoy that.
You call that date not, oh yeah, we would be there, right? And that's the thing is like what I considered value was just the time.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with all the other things like, oh, we're going to get our mat and I'll get you new pants, whatever the case, right? Like the yoga experience was irrelevant to me. It was, you said date. Right?
For sure.
And that was my selling word. I don't know. I just like...
wow, I did such a good job.
But you sold to my model of the world. It was easy for me.
Yeah.
Right? It was easy to say yes. I didn't even think about the fact that I'd be like stretching, right? Because stretching sucks.
You'd be like, ouch.
Stretching and breathing. But like you said, date.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Is like...
For sure.
It was easy for me.
I think a lot of times like we have a fantastic talent or product. Like, in a relationship, it could be a talent or an interest. In business, it's a product or service. Something that like you have that really is of value, but maybe you lack the confidence or the feeling of deserving to actually like, sell it the way that you can and should and deserve to. So you feel the need to prove value.
Yes.
But like, are you actually losing out on business because you're trying too hard to prove value?
I love what you said there because I went and looked up the word value in the dictionary. And what I perceived as value is a different word than what the dictionary described it as. In fact, the actual description is the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, and usefulness of something. And after I read that, I was like, okay, yeah, sure, business. But then I looked at you and I was like, Ambry, individual.
Yeah.
Like, do you hold yourself available to deserve what you're asking for? I mean, it
starts there.
Do you feel important or worth what you're asking? And more importantly, do you feel useful in your relationship? Right?
Yeah. You could have $1 million product that people would line up to buy. But if you don't feel like you deserve that success or you don't have the, confidence, like you've got negative emotions that are blocking you, like, it doesn't matter.
It does not
Someone
matter.
else will go sell that $1 million product because they've removed those things that are blocking them from the success.
Well, and I was telling you this, like, there's a reason why McLaren can sell you a 6-figure car. And we've experienced this when we bought it. And we can attest that car was in the shop more than it was on the road.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why McLaren can charge you more money than a house for a car.
Yeah.
And get away with it being in the shop.
Like ours, I mean, it wasn't even brand new. Like,
no.
But, we spent the money, we bought it. And I mean, it was fun car. Like I miss that car in some ways. It's only been a few months since we traded it in for something else. But yeah, like, I mean, that car literally, like, I would say literally half the time we owned it, it was in the shop.
Yeah.
Waiting for parts, like waiting for, and during that time, we were still paying for it, plus paying for the parts and labor to have it fixed.
Yeah.
Like,
What's crazy about that car is the amount of money we spent monthly and the payment.
oh my gosh.
We could have went and bought a Bugatti, right? It was
In a sense,
freaking expensive.
I mean, I'm sure there's maintenance there too, but like, I mean, but to your point, like, it's a McLaren.
Right.
I mean, you wouldn't have, like, your average sedan on the road and be spending $3,000 every couple months to fix it.
Yeah.
You'd be like, no, like,
It's crazy.
yeah.
But the thing is because of the name, we perceive the value and we're willing to pay
more
it.
valuable, obviously, but
But it's
anyways.
valuable based off of perception.
it's perception, and
Yeah.
I mean, there is quality there. There's something different there. Like, obviously you can't compare, the McLaren to a Camry or
Sure.
to,
But let's talk about that
a
because
Prius or whatever it is. All great cars, but you can't, I mean, there's a difference there.
Right.
However, like, they've created a brand and a luxury around it and an environment around it that sells itself.
Correct.
And so literally you'll do what it takes and spend the money to repair it or whatever needs to be done because it's a McLaren.
And the real problem, what it comes down to, is like, do you think McLaren knows that their cars have problems?
Probably.
Yeah.
Every car does.
They do. But you know what? It doesn't change them from charging more.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the fact they know their car isn't like, it's a subpar product, but they have no problem charging lots of money because of their name and because of what they established.
Yeah.
And so the real problem here isn't your product. It isn't your value or what you offer your spouse or your family. The real problem is your lack of perception of internal value. That is the issue.
That could be the root.
It's, at some
Likely
point,
it is.
somewhere, you don't feel like you're feeling enough value to the people around you. Therefore, you're racking your brain and you're worried about providing value to everyone when really you're valuable already. The only thing that is keeping you back from being more valuable or charging even more money
Is your subconscious, like, rejection of that.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you, like, at what point in your life did you start to feel like you weren't valuable to people?
Yeah. Or that you had to prove
You had
your
to prove
value
your
and that
value.
it wasn't just, like, effortlessly there.
Right.
By the way that you conduct yourself, the way that you, live your life, the energy that you emit and attract to other people. I mean, going back to, like, what, the question I just asked, like, are you losing business by trying too hard to prove value? Oof. I think that is a common thing that people don't even realize is happening. Like, you assume someone didn't hire you because of value, right? Maybe that's not even really why.
Right.
First of all, or did you subconsciously reject that sale or that, progression in relationship or whatever it is not because of value, but because you didn't feel like you deserved it. And, a minute ago, Jesse and I were talking about a situation where, we've talked about this a lot, but we bought a McLaren a couple of years ago. Before we bought it, we had looked at a few other cars. We went and looked at this really cool orange Lamborghini and we would have bought it. Like we were like, there was really no reason not to. Like, maybe,
Hindsight 2020, we would have
we
bought
probably
it.
would have, right? I feel like maybe there was a few factors into play, but the person that, showed us this vehicle, like, almost, like, didn't want us to even, like, test drive it. They were kind of, it just wasn't, like, it was not an easy thing. Like, it should have been, like, there was no, like, almost like there was no perception of respect on their end. And that's how we felt. We're like Jesse called a friend afterwards and was like, he was so confused why this experience went the way it was that he called his friend and he's like, hey, do you perceive me as someone that you would take seriously? Like, if I walked in to buy a Lamborghini, you'd be like, yeah, okay. Like, you'd take me seriously. Right. And you were, like, kind of perplexed by that. Cause you're like, I feel like I would have just gone in and, like, bought it, but it was like, it felt so unnatural. Like, it just didn't flow. Right. Well, we started unpacking that and talking and we're like, well, what if that salesperson actually, like, subconsciously didn't believe that selling that Lamborghini could be that easy.
Yeah.
That someone would just walk in with this crazy idea of buying a car to use for their business and their clients.
At 10 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, 10 in the morning with 2 kids in tow.
Yeah.
like they maybe had this perception that like that was unrealistic or that was impossible, that would just happen, and that they deserved that someone would just walk in and, you know, you would have the car that works for them, and that even though this car is 6 figures, that it would be a great experience and opportunity and it would flow. Like maybe they didn't believe in that effortless and, you know, available of a process. And so they subconsciously rejected it through their energy and their actions. Like, to me, that's so powerful. Like, okay, let's go back to like, you know, we kind of keep jumping between like business and relationship, but that's what we're all about, right? So like, let's say there's something that you really want to do with your family or with your spouse, right? Well, if you go to them with this idea, like let's say, Jesse, I come to you with an idea and I'm like, in my mind, like I really want to do this and I'm excited about it, but I've already preconceived in my mind that you don't want to do that and that you will have a different opinion or that you're going to say no. And I've already presupposed that in my mind.
Right.
How is that process going to go? Like my sale, if you will, towards you is going to be weak. Like I'm going to be like, I've already kind of made up in my mind that the answer is no, or that even if you say yes, you're reluctant. And so then I'm not going to want to even do it because I don't want to drag you along to something you're reluctant about, right? It's just, you're pre-creating and presupposing a negative outcome.
Yeah. What you believe is what you receive.
Exactly. And so if you're doing that, like with a spouse, with a client, like if you're presupposing already that you doubt the value, you doubt the experience, you doubt, you know, the outcome, that's probably going to happen.
Right. But it's not, the funny thing is it's not even the person, right? You haven't even met them.
No.
You've already created this emotion, this feeling.
Yes.
And that's the thing is like when you're daydreaming or dreaming or just thinking deep in thought, your body is going to produce an emotion, and that emotion is energy, right? It's an energy exchange. So in essence, you're sitting there in your car driving to your appointment or thinking about inviting your spouse to yoga, and you're saying, oh, he'll never do that. He'll never do that. Oh, well, yeah, of course he's not, because your energy and your emotion and your feelings around that whole thing is already created the outcome.
And that's something we could go so much deeper in, but like I'll suggest, you know, if you're curious about that concept of what if in the negative versus what if in the positive, go back and listen to one of our earlier podcasts called What If versus What If, because that's a big deal.
Yeah. I have a good one.
Okay.
And I want to share it. One of the things that was interesting is there was a day where I was feeling very, very like, ooh, I don't know, like kind of in over my head, imposter syndrome. Ambry and I feel this too. Like, don't let us like trick you in believing that we don't. Like this happens from time to time, not as frequently as it used to. But there was this time where we left. I mean, our day was on lock, right? Like it was planned perfectly. And we left and we were going to be at a specific location on time with a family member. And it was like, boom. Well, this family member threw us a curveball right at the end, like about 10 minutes before we're supposed to be there and we're on track. And they're like, oh, by the way, can you do this for me? And what that did is it deterred us from being on time. And it threw out our plan and our excellence. Mm-hmm. And you and I remember just sitting there just like, I was heated, right? Like and it wasn't anything other than, why am I feeling this way? Yeah. And I started to like unpack that a little bit. And I found that the reason why this person called us is because we always provide value in our family. We've always provided value. Now, with that, we've always said yes. Mm-hmm. We've never said no.
Yeah.
And so the reason why there's times where I feel like an imposter, I was able to tie that to that event and say, you know what? It's because I always say yes. I've always said yes to my family. I've never set an emotional boundary of no, my time's too valuable.
Yeah.
Therefore, they feel they can call and expect us to use our resources, use our time, and that our time isn't valuable. And that ultimately started to frustrate me. And then I realized it's because I always said yes, and I didn't set the boundaries for myself. So you better believe the next time they called, like even though we could have, and time allowed and everything, we said no. And the reason why is we needed to start setting the boundary and start setting the fact that our time actually is valuable. Yeah. And people so, you gotta respect that.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that ever since. I remember we had a family member staying with us over the break. And I remember every night, 7:00, boom, we're like clockwork getting our kids to bed. And we were not we didn't stay up late talking and jeopardizing our standards. And I also remember another thing, someone was late and I just had to say, sorry, right? Because I'm not going to jeopardize my standards anymore, because I needed to create more perception that we are valuable people and our time is valuable. Yeah. Therefore, when I'm asking people for lots of money for coaching or for whatever the case, when I up my prices, people understand it's because this dude's time is valuable. Yeah. And they want to work with me. And so that's that's what it is. So if you're feeling less value, I've got some tips, and I know you do too. But one of the things I would say, first of all, is if it's in a business sense or if it's in a relationship sense, up your freaking value. Yeah. Well, up your price.
Yeah. Stop saying give yourself permission. We've talked about that before too.
Stop going above and beyond. Yeah. And just start going beyond, or don't even go beyond your scope of what you told them yes to. Stay consistent with what you told them yes to and up your price. Yeah. They deserve you.
Absolutely. Change your environment, right? Can I share
please
a story? So yes, we've talked about this before, Jesse, as well, but there's this social experiment / prank, whatever you want to call it, that Payless Shoes did. I don't even know when, years ago. I freaking love this story. It's hilarious to me because this goes to show perception and environment are everything. When it comes to your business and what you're, selling or whatever. So Payless Shoes, if you don't know Payless Shoes, look them up. I think, most of us know Payless Shoes.
You can kind of get the idea that you pay less for shoes.
There you go. That is very true. But I mean, $20 to $40 shoes, right? Yeah. That, sometimes are on sale for even less. Mm-hmm. Great place for family shoes, whatever. Well, they did this social experiment and they went and opened up a fake store in a really high-end luxury mall in Los Angeles. Okay, there's your environment change, right? Yep. So right then and there, you've got a luxury mall. People are accustomed to walking in, feeling luxury, feeling, confidence. They're going to spend, anywhere from $600 to $6,000 plus on a single item. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just my perception. I don't know what that actually looks like, but they're fine going and spending hundreds of dollars on something. You're in an environment where that's the mindset.
Right.
So they opened up this fake store. I think they called it Palessi or something like that. Very high-end looking store with a clean cut logo and, just looked like you could walk onto a runway and feel like $1 million with these shoes on. So they go and they put Payless shoes in this Palessi and they stage everything really nice. They have these really great salespeople in there. Everything's very aesthetic and, it's just this wonderful experience. Well, they have all these influencers and all these people coming in and spending $600 plus on shoes. And they're just raving how these shoes are so unique and so luxury and, whatever. And literally have no idea that they're buying a shoe that they could go to Payless and get for $30, $20, whatever. Yep. But because of this perception and this feeling and this environment change, they're willing to walk into the store and literally pay $600 for a $20 shoe.
Yeah. Well, they didn't know any better. It was an environment, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing that I would challenge you is what environment are you living in? Are you living in an environment we, right now, we've erased the word or are working on erasing the word cheap from our house. Yeah. Oh, this is cheap. No, it's perfect for me. Yeah. It's designed exactly. That's very
expensive.
I'm getting more value out of this for the price I'm paying. And you change your mindset.
Or just changing it to that's... Yeah. You figure out what works for you, but
I'm looking at the timer and we're already gonna go over. This is awesome. So
should we stop here and keep people hanging and just do a second part next week?
I'm gonna share something here. This one, I remember sitting at I was doing a sale, and I was just like, you know what, screw it. I was in the lack of like feeling value, and I was just like, screw it. I deserve to make more money. I know this in my heart, so I'm just gonna do this. And if I lose a sale, who cares? There will be another sale, right?
Yeah.
Like that's one thing I was not lacking confidence in, is the fact that there'd be another sale. So I remember sitting there talking to the guy, and he was like, okay, so what are you going to charge me? And I said, well, sir, after looking at all the value here, what do you think I'm worth? And I just turned it back on him. And he's like, you're worth exactly what you're asking, I guess. And like, he's just looking at it. You want to know how much? Like $14,000 more is what he paid me than the other people he had that wanted to help. The same freaking thing. Same result, $14,000 different. All because
that's so awesome.
I had the confidence. I remember calling you. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
After, and I was like, I'm a freaking beast. Like I was like, yeah.
But that creates a different experience for you, which you deserve. Like,
and that client, easiest client
exactly.
ever.
Like
Best
there's
client.
immediate respect and rapport that like is not easily broken throughout that process. Like I have a cousin that runs a very successful video and media, like specifically for weddings and destination weddings. And it's an incredible business that he has. And he posted on social media one day about like a kind of an experiment that they did one weekend where they slashed their prices like to like nothing. Like they, you know, for what they do, they can charge a decent amount. And they were, you know, doing a promo where it was like a few $100s. Yeah. Like almost a no-brainer, right? And they had some people take advantage of that promo. Well, you know, these weddings come and they go to these weddings and they're treated like absolute crap. Like they are like, it's horrible experience. Like they just, they were rude to them. Like the people, their client was like rude to them and just not a great experience. Right. Well, then the next week they up their prices like substantially, like insanely, and people pay it. And those clients, they go to these weddings, they're treated like royalty. They're offered food and drink. They are, you know, catered to, and they are treated like, you know, extremely valuable and respected. Same company, same people, same content, same level of like amazing media work and videography that the client is receiving. Right. Different price.
Absolutely.
So are you cutting yourself short by not just selling your value, but like giving someone the immediate, what's the word I'm looking for? Like almost like the demand of respect for what they are getting, because when you're paying for something, like there's a threshold there where like when you're paying so much, whatever that is in your mind, like you see the value and you respect it immediately. Like you don't even need to be sold on it.
Yes. And I'm gonna go here real quick. Individuals, in the individual section, stay-at-home moms. Do you know how much freaking value you actually provide? Like, think about it. Maybe you do laundry. Maybe your spouse helps with laundry, but like, consider the home. I mean, the home has millions of things that need to be done every single day, right? Like your kids, your pride and joy, the thing that you and your spouse have agreed upon, like taking mutual responsibility, you take a lot of that load, right? They're your never-ending client, right? From sun up to sundown, and sometimes in the middle of the night, right? But how many times stay-at-home moms or dads, right? Yeah. We live in 2023 now, so anything goes, right? Just kidding.
I mean, I wouldn't say anything goes. I would say like, you know.
But how many of you, maybe you're not necessarily the financial provider in the family, but you do a ton. I mean, think about that. And now you got to establish boundaries and values with your kids too. Yeah. Remember? You and I went 5 years without leaving a house by ourselves on a date. Almost 5. And so there has to be some...
maybe not to that extreme. Sure. But yeah. Like we didn't go on a vacation by ourselves. Right. And or like, you know, leave.
Right. Because we didn't feel like we deserved
consecutive nights. Yeah.
I remember that. And the first time we did it, we're like, holy crap, this is the greatest thing ever.
And there was a lot of fear. Like fear-based programs there that had to be addressed and removed. But.
Right. But that's the thing is like, if you don't see the value in yourself, right? If you're not giving
or
yourself
in your relationship,
right,
or
if
whatever.
you're not giving yourself an opportunity to go on a date night or go out with, your group of friends because you don't feel like you deserve it because you're not the primary breadwinner.
Yeah.
Like, just go. Just treat yourself. You deserve it. And you need to find ways to create.
Well, and how can you expect those around you, your kids, your spouse, your client,
Yes.
to see that value and see that you deserve it if you don't believe that?
Ooh, I love that.
You have to believe that,
Yeah. I had a conversation with my dad. Like, we had a really, really good heart-to-heart. For those that know my background as a kid, it was less than desirable in some areas. In other areas, it was amazing. And I appreciate my parents.
Yeah, I think everyone can relate to that.
But I talked to him, and one of the things he said is, like, I worked and worked and worked because there was a deserving issue.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't deserve to go do the things that I wanted to do. I felt like I didn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked and worked and worked. And ultimately, that work led to him finally going and finding something that would give him a high, in essence, in drugs. And then that ruined his family. And it's because there was a lack of deserving. And if you ask him now, there's still a lack of deserving in some areas.
Yeah.
And we had a phenomenal talk and discovered that. And so you've got to create more value for you. Like, you've got to take a step back.
It starts within,
It all does.
And I think, like, you brought up stay-at-home moms, and I think that's a real thing.
Yes.
But take a step back for a minute. Like, your stay-at-home mom or dad, like,
anything,
whatever it is, right? But your spouse, maybe your days look completely different if you were to compare them, right?
Right.
And for some reason, you have this perception that what they are doing is more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But why, right? For one.
Sure.
But also take a step back and go, okay, like, if you are the one in the relationship doing the majority of the, laundry, dishes, food prep, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Like, take a step back and go, is that like attributing in a huge way to the success and the ability and the, the ability for your spouse to do what they're doing?
Right.
Would they be as effective and as motivated or as, whatever, without your support, the work that you're putting in, the emotional, physical support, all of those things, like, no, like, the answer is no. I mean, it goes both ways.
It totally does.
Obviously, but I think that is something that
is real
for people.
100%.
And maybe you need to consider your, the emotion, the definition you're putting around value, right? Whether it's a relationship or whether it is your business or a product you're selling. Maybe the perception or the definition you have could change and serve you better.
It's never been about the money, and it will never be about the money. Mm-hmm. Money is just a means to make things happen for what you want. Mm-hmm. Therefore, if it's not about the money, but you think it's about the money, it will be about the money.
Sure, that's true.
And so what it is, though, is it is your lack of your perceived value. The day I just said, screw it. Like, I'm going to just say I'm valued here, right? And I'm not going to take on that client just because I can.
Right.
Or I'm not boundaries. I'm not going to take on.
That'll be another episode.
I'm not going to take on this family involvement because I can. I'm going to do it whether I want to or whether I don't. Mm-hmm. And therefore, my family, when they do see me, they're going to have a higher respect for my time and who I am as an individual and want to leverage that time instead of me showing up to my family's events, sitting on the couch on my phone, bored out of my mind because I say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Or being frustrated, right?
Yeah.
Trying to understand what it is. So, I mean, there's so much to unpack in this episode. I'm so grateful for this person. Like,
this was a great topic.
If they have listened to the show, awesome. Thank you for listening. If you haven't, welcome to the show because I think we just had a lifelong listener here. But what I really, really just want to hit home, you got to up your value.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Up your value and say no for once in your life.
And
quit saying yes to everything and everyone.
Believe that you deserve and give yourself permission to deserve. And that energy alone is going to speak value to those that you're, it shouldn't be, it's not, I don't want to say it's not hard. It shouldn't be hard. It should be easy.
Yes.
For you to, sell value because you're not selling it. It's there.
Can I share
who you are?
Yeah.
You believe it. And so other people believe it too.
Can I share one more story since we've already gone over?
Yeah. Jesse, hurry up. Dang it. Would you stop talking over there?
So there was a recent date. Okay. For those that know, I've dropped a ton of weight. But there was a recent date that you and I went on.
Oh, me? I was the one that went on this date with you?
Of course, only you. You are the only date I want to go on. And so, anyways, best friend, my buddy. Anyways,
all the things.
Man. So we go to this clothing store, and this was different, right? Like we're like, oh, where do we go? Oh, we could go the normal. And I remember sitting there talking, and I was like, no. I don't deserve the normal anymore. The normal Jesse died a year and a half ago.
Yikes.
And I remember just looking at you saying,
specifically in this scenario, it's like a department store we would go to, and we would just kind of wander around, look, see if we could find something, beeline it straight to the clearance rack, and just settle on whatever was there because it's a good deal, it's cheap, whatever, right? But it really wasn't what you want. And even sometimes you wasted $50 on crap that you wore maybe once,
right?
But that didn't make you feel your best self, and you didn't deserve that. You don't deserve to not feel your best self. You deserve to feel on fire.
Exactly. And so I remember looking at you, and we're talking, and at first I was going to settle, and then I just looked and said, no, screw it. We're going over here. We went over there. We walked right in, and the lady that was helping us, she was pretty nice, but finally I was just like, I'm not getting the experience I want. And I just said, look, I help people, like a lot of people.
Here's what I do. Here's what I need.
Here's what I need.
Yeah.
And I was very specific.
This is my audience. This is my business. This is,
Yeah. Stop showing me the things I don't want.
Yeah.
And the minute I changed
within 5 minutes, there was a whole wardrobe.
Yes.
Boom.
And it was exactly what I wanted, right? What was so crazy about that, I didn't even look at the price tag, we bought it. And then we went to the mall because we had to go get some shoes. And then I remember walking into another store that we never walked into before.
Beautiful
and
store.
I remember I walked in, I was like, oh, you know what? Let's just go here. It looked nice. It looked, and I was in this mindset of I deserve nice. This looked nice. I've never been here before. We walk in, and I discovered some of the greatest pants and some of the greatest things I've never discovered before, all because I told myself I saw more value in me. Yeah. Instead of going over to pay less shoes, I'm looking at a different, I'm looking at, I'm a Palessi, but
just kidding.
Ultimately though, I remember, and then today I looked at you and I just said, man, I hate the smell of cologne. This is a whole different thing, right? Yeah. I can't stand cologne, and it usually gives me a headache. Mm-hmm. These pants were caked with them.
Yeah, and everything in that store had a smell, but it was a glorious one.
I remember sitting in the car looking at you and going, I think I want cologne. And you're like, you hate cologne. And you're like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, the fact is I associated something so motivating and so amazing.
Good emotion.
And the emotion and everything that was tied there, that this smell doesn't bother me. And I looked at you and I said, I think I have some issues with certain smells.
Subconsciously, not actually physically.
Right. I don't think it's actually I'm allergic. I think there's something subconsciously that I've tied certain smells with that give me a headache.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
When you and I were talking in the car, I just remember going, whoa.
But this all goes back to giving yourself permission and deserving, right? Because you told yourself this is not what I want. This is what I want.
Exactly.
And at first it feels uncomfortable because you're going to spend 3 times as much money as you would have in the past, or but the way you are going to feel and the energy that you're going to emit when you're speaking to an audience and you're giving a speech, when you're recording videos for clients, when you are, whatever it is, you're going to feel like your best self and you're going to feel amazing.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that automatically that is you selling and proving your value
100%.
Without even really trying. But you've done a lot of internal work to get there, right? So it does start from within, but how easy is that?
The next day,
you bought some clothes that make you feel like $1 million and all of a sudden it's so easy for you to go out and be your best self.
Yeah.
And it's not as simple as that, right? But that's a big deal rather than going and just getting the I'm going to use the word cheap, like
Yes.
the cheapest crap that
The
you can
forbidden
find
word.
just because like it's there and you need something, like
Right.
you don't really love it. You're going to put it on and be like, okay, whatever. But like it's clothes.
Right.
And then you're going to go in and you're not going to have the same confidence. You're not going to emit the same energy.
Nope.
And that's not what you want.
No, not at all.
So you knew what you wanted and then you went and got it. And that's, I mean,
The interesting thing about that is that after that happened, we drove home. Someone called us. It was a client. I went right to the client. I was like, hey, this is what's up. Right.
Yeah.
I just was very straight, very honest.
literally
I had no problem. And that client's like, yeah, we need to work with you. And then the
closed
same
the client 30 minutes after.
30 minutes after. And it was totally different.
But would you have rejected that sell potentially
Yes.
subconsciously
100%.
before if you had not set yourself up for success, giving
Yep.
yourself permission to win and to be excellent
Yes.
and to deserve what you had coming to you?
Right.
I think there's so many opportunities we miss out on by moving away from what we want rather than towards.
Yeah. And the thing is like, I remember losing a deal very specifically. I remember I knocked on the door and was talking to this lady, and she was from New York, straight, scary, like intimidating, very, very bold personality. And like, she's like pointing me to the, like, why are you still standing here? Like, move.
You didn't.
And I was just like, oh. And so, like, I remember calling you going, I totally lost this sell and I don't want to work with this lady. She's
like, that
scary, right? Like, that was
Yeah.
not my best self. And I did end up losing that sell, right? And where I'm going with that is just like, had I felt that level of confidence and just been like, here you go. Like, and I was trying to please and like,
Yeah.
like almost charm,
Yeah.
right? This person and like make them think, oh,
Yep.
I'm a good person. And here's all my value I bring. And oh, by the way, I'll reduce my, you know,
Yeah.
my fee and all these other things. And ultimately that had nothing to do with it.
Right.
The person that walked in said, yep, here you go. They had confidence. They charged this lady more money than I charged.
Yep.
It had nothing to do with price. It had everything to do with the fact that I did not feel valuable internally.
Yeah. And if you want to be your best self all the time so that you can
Yeah.
sell all the time effortlessly, like you got to be set up for that. It reminds me of a time when you went to buy something and the person that you wanted to buy from, like they were recommended to you from someone else and
Yep.
you were literally ready to just like swipe the card and buy. Like it was a
Yes.
service they were going to offer and like you wanted it. Like it was like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And this person on the other end, like they were like, okay, like they wanted to set up some like consultations and like I respect that, you know, sometimes that's necessary, but in this case it wasn't.
No.
Like those things could have happened after you paid them.
Yeah.
And it would have been the same thing. This person ended up losing the business completely because it took too long. Like you were like, I want this right now.
Yep.
Like let's start. And this can all be part of the process, but like, let's get going. Let's exchange this energy and move forward. And that didn't happen. And it's like sad to me because I'm thinking once again, like the Lamborghini, maybe that person didn't believe that it could be that easy. So they were trying, almost backtracking, trying to make it harder, trying to like add all these extra steps that weren't even needed in this case.
Yeah.
Maybe for someone else they would be, but in this case, like you were ready to go.
Do you remember what happened too? Because it was a $5,000 product and then they upsold us even more to certain coaching and other stuff. So it went from $5,000 of what this higher end product was. Well, let me backtrack. The guy that I was talking to, he was going to charge like $1,500.
Yeah.
But he wasn't giving me that answer. Like that's kind of what I was assuming he was going to charge me based off his responses.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't tell me until I had this 30-minute conversation. I said, forget
You
it.
just wanted to like
I just needed
start.
I needed it, right?
And then you went and spent $5,000 and I did it too. So we actually spent $10,000.
But then they also included a bundle package
Right.
that if you bought now, you would get an X amount of
Yeah.
additional coaching for
Which was coaching we were already
$45,000.
gonna buy.
So what would have been
But
a
like-
$1,500 purchase? We spent $45,000.
And we would have bought that other coaching anyways, but this particular, it was physical coaching.
Yeah.
What we're specifically talking about. Like maybe this person thought $1,500 they were going to charge was too much when really like we were ready to drop $5,000.
Jeez, we didn't even know we were ready to spend $45 until the
No.
card was spent, and
It's true.
You know,
but like, yes.
Yeah.
Like you gotta believe that you deserve and you have to believe in your value.
Yeah.
And it will portray to your clients.
Right. But the thing is you've got to go after the things you want. I'm laughing at the clock.
I know. I can't look at the
45
time.
minutes,
Like
you guys.
I just can't look at it because we're
is
just
so
really good at 45-minute episodes. Like it's just what comes naturally to us.
And that's why we do public speaking too, right? So,
There you go.
if you want us to come speak to your event, obviously we can talk for an
Yeah.
hour and do pretty well at it.
Jesse's currently booking for
Anyways.
2023, so and 2024.
The thing is, though, is you've got to increase your value. And I don't care. Like, if you're looking, it does not matter. It's all making more sense to me as time continues to move on. But, like, yes, you could buy a $100 pair of shoes. Is that the shoe you want, or are you settling?
Yeah.
Or do you go buy the $300 pair of shoes?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the $300 pair of shoes makes you stretch a little bit, makes you feel uncomfortable, but you know what? That's ultimately what you wanted. So you
Right.
bought the $300 pair of shoes, and how much better do you feel?
Yeah.
And then when people
the way
go,
you feel is everything.
yeah, and then people go, oh my gosh, I love your
Starts with you.
shoes, right? And then
Yeah.
like you're like, oh yeah, I love my shoes too,
Hey,
right?
it also started a conversation you might not have had
Yeah.
otherwise.
Oh, that was the other thing is like I remember specifically saying, oh yeah, I buy shoes every time I reward myself on a closed deal.
Someone's like, wait, what?
And they're like, what? And you're like, yeah. And in fact, one of the guys that I told that story to was like, I need coaching, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, here you go.
You're like,
I'm
cool,
right,
sign up for my program.
right
You can
here.
pick the
He
shoes
took
I
my
buy.
number. All of a sudden, check my Instagram. He follows me on Instagram, and he's probably going to start listening to this episode.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. And so that's the thing, though, is like, I changed my environment. I did something that I really, really wanted for myself. It was showed. People complimented, noticed it, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing that most people crave in this world the most is certainty. And if you can
Yeah.
show certainty in yourself,
Absolutely.
you will be filthy rich, whatever you do, because you're certain in you and you're certain in your product. But the thing is, most people hold themselves back because they don't feel valuable enough in their own life because, oh man, well, how can I be valuable if I'm washing my dishes? How can I be valuable if I'm doing laundry? I'm stuck at home with kids all day. Or how can I be valuable if all I do is the same dang thing every
Change
single
your
day?
mindset and perception.
Right. If I'm 300 pounds, how can I be valuable? Well, if you're 300 pounds, you could still be valuable. And there's things you can do for you. But it starts internally. What you receive.
What's your story? What are you creating?
Yes. What you receive is what you are thinking. And so we're going to challenge you, right? We talked about one thing, up your price. Doesn't matter. Relationship, business, up your freaking value. Start saying no to people if you need to do that, right? And then the next thing I would say is whatever it is, if you feel like you're lacking value, write down 5 things every single day for 30 days of ways you could improve your value. And I'm not just talking your product in business. Sure, you could do that, and that would be very beneficial for your business. But you internally, 5 things that you could do every single day to improve your value.
Yeah.
You want to fix something? After 30 days, you'll have 150 freaking things you can look
That will
at.
pique your curiosity to the max.
And maybe all 150 do not motivate you or inspire you, but there will be something in that you grab onto it and go, yes. And that will be the key to unlock it. But
because
all you got to
you're
do is write it
presently
down.
thinking about it, there's going to be people that come into your life and there's going to be opportunities that arrive because you're putting energy and intention there.
Yeah. If you have
And that's awesome.
if you have a product, write down 150 ways you can market that product, different, unique ways, right? Get
different
very
people
specific.
you could sell it to, different ways you could market it, different environments you could put it in.
If it's video, how could you focus really niche on one specific video and make it so that you're the only person that can do this and prove it? Okay, if it's fitness, how do you do a different fitness program that separates you from all the other fitness programs? Maybe it's as simple as just niching down and saying, you know what, I'm going to help you get abs in 28 days. This is the 6-pack guide to ads. And then when they go, oh yeah, I'm going to sign up, you go, oh, by the way, here's a full body workout. It's the same freaking product. You've just niched down, and then you've perceived even more value because you're including the full body, right? Like 5 things every single day. Get very specific on how you can increase your value, and I guarantee your life will change.
Yeah. And you'll start seeing people in your industry or, whatever that are really good at what you do, and you can, take note and maybe you find a coach. Like one of our coaches charges $1 million for their one-on-one coaching. $1 million. Like, let that sink in for a minute.
And we know someone
what makes you or I any more or less worth or valuable that kind of, opportunity.
And I'll be honest, some of the things that we've heard stories-wise, like I know me personally, there would be things I would do differently that I would perceive as my model of the world as a better product.
That's why, just because someone else has done it doesn't mean you can't.
Right.
You're going to do it in your own way, you're going to attract the people you need to attract. Yeah. Like, so don't let other people's success or other people's success, whatever, deter you from having your own.
Yep. Value is internal.
Yes.
It's not your product.
It's created inside and portrayed to your external.
Value is an energy. It's an emotion. And when you have an emotion that you are a valuable person, other people feel that emotion. And guess what? Your bank account, if it's a product, starts flooding. Guess what? Your wife or your husband starts looking at you differently. And you start to see different responses, different results in your life because you start to perceive yourself more value. Mm-hmm. The day I started my weight loss journey to the day now, Ambry and I are different in our relationship. Our life is better.
Yeah.
And it's
everything
because
is better because
everything is
because
better.
Of just like changing our value. That's one way to say it, but creating more
individual value
and belief of confidence and deserving and just working towards things and actually succeeding and giving ourselves permission. Yeah.
Watching you buy a pair of $300 shoes, something you've never done before, and you going after and watching the progress, right? Because before you bought the $300 pair of shoes, you bought two $100 pair of shoes that you were trying to figure out if you would settle.
Yeah,
but then watching you hate them, return them, and go buy what you want and wear them almost daily now is a huge freaking turn on to me as a husband. And it's not just in a sexual stance. It is holy crap, this woman that I love so much is finally seeing what I see.
That you deserve.
That she deserves this thing. Yeah. And therefore, I'm turned on by that. I am how do I become more excellent for her? How do I change it? But it wasn't because you were doing this for me. It was doing it for you. And because I love you so much, it makes me cheer you on from the sidelines.
Watching the person you love succeed and be the best version of themselves is a magical thing for a relationship.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Euphoric. It's you can't, can't really find a replacement for that.
Well, and then I look at it and go, Ambry, what pair of shoes you buying next, right? Yeah. And I get excited. Or when we're at the store, even though we're shopping.
It's now we got to go close the deal so we can buy more shoes.
Right. But then that energy is exchanged. And before you know it, and I'm not going to tell you that this is going to happen all the time, but we have an amazing date, amazing experience. You buy your shoes, I buy my clothes. And before we know it, where our pipeline for a certain business was pretty much dry, all of a sudden we have 9 new leads in a single week.
Yeah.
Huh.
Our unconscious minds are oh crap, we got to be able to do this again. Let's go.
These guys love
themselves. We got to go make some money so that we can go experience this again.
Yes. These guys love themselves so much that we gotta the energy is starting to be exchanged and people are reaching out. Hey, I don't know if you still do this, but I need your help. And it's or I don't know if you do this or not, but I kind of get the vibe that you can help me. So what?
Yeah. Put me in. Yeah, exactly.
We have an opportunity to have someone for something that we typically do all the time. We can exchange services and have something that we truly, truly desire taken off our plate. And we can just do an energy exchange there.
Yeah.
And that would have never happened until people started feeling that energy
and you
that
feel
value.
You deserve it and you can provide the value.
That happened this week along with the 9 new clients that we have. Yeah. Value, guys.
Yep.
It's internal.
Love it.
So,
well, here we are. What was supposed to be our shortest episode today, I think is now our longest. But I think that there is an awesome value here and just really appreciate you guys being here. Once again, we'll make this ending short here because I feel like we always get really mushy because we just love you guys and we appreciate I had a friend today that told me she started listening to our podcast and I'm just feel filled with gratitude towards, her, towards all of you because the support and the kind words and the feedback and the topic ideas, we love it all. So
getting this topic, it just changed it changed my perception of value even more.
Yep.
Right. And so obviously for selfish reasons, we get a secondary gain from you guys asking us questions and we just appreciate it.
Yep.
100%. So
keep the topic ideas and the content ideas coming. We love it.
Yeah.
And go out there, be your best self and, You have the ability to create amazing things.
Yep. And I'm going to challenge you too. If this did strike an emotional chord with you, share this episode with your friends.
We'd love that.
Everyone needs more value in their life.
There's someone out there thinking of right now who needs to hear that they have the value and they have what it takes to do.
Maybe it's your spouse
that they want to do, that they're just like, something's holding them back.
Maybe it's your
Send
spouse.
them this episode and then tell them to reach out to us.
Yep. Thank you so much for listening this episode.
Until
the longest
next week.
Maybe we should just start setting a standard that it's an hour, right? Like every episode's
and then
an hour now.
45 minutes, we're like, woo.
Yeah, we're like, hey, we cut it down. But no, this was awesome.
Yep,
and
thanks for being here.
Yeah,
if you made it this far,
you're the real
best.
one. You're a real one.
Yeah. If you made it this far, send us a message and we want to like personally thank you.
Yeah, we might just send you a gift card or some ibuprofen
we'll
for
do
the
a
headache.
for any people that made it this far
There
in
you
the
go.
podcast.
There you go. But we appreciate it.
gosh.
We hope you have a fantastic day. And once again, join us next week for more amazing stuff. And if you want to hear something, send it. Send it. We will talk about it.
Yes, we will.
100%. You guys are beautiful people. Thank you so much for listening.